Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. If you're the kind of person who just loves unpacking the hidden reasons behind why we do what we do every single day, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going on a pretty fascinating psychological journey. Have you ever noticed that certain people, or hey, maybe even yourself, have this absolute, totally non-negotiable need to sit facing the exit? We kind of just brush it off, right? Like, oh, they're just picky about where they sit. But we're going to break down the highly structured, intensely fascinating science that proves you aren't just choosing a chair. Your brain is actually doing something incredibly complex. Let's get into it.
Picture this. You walk into a super busy restaurant, a crowded coffee shop, or even just a regular meeting room at work. Before you even consciously look at the menu or decide if you want a latte or a cappuccino, you feel this subtle automatic urge. You literally scan the room, looking for that one specific seat where you've got a clear line of sight right to the entrance. And if, for whatever reason, you're forced to sit with your back to the room, you feel this undeniable, creeping wave of anxiety. I really want to validate that for you right now. It is completely normal. And more importantly, it is not just you being paranoid. Your brain is actually executing a highly developed routine.
And this behavior perfectly illustrates a concept called environmental scanning. So this isn't just some quirky personality trait, it is a hardwired survival mechanism. Think of it like this. Your mind has actually learned to prioritize your awareness of your physical surroundings way over your physical comfort. It desperately wants to stay one step ahead of the world to ensure your psychological safety. It's honestly a brilliant tactic your brain uses to navigate spaces that it subconsciously flags as unpredictable.
Which brings us to our first section, reading the room, predicting and controlling chaos. So the really crucial point here is that facing the door is very often a sign of heightened social vigilance. Our sources point out that a lot of folks who absolutely need to face the door actually grew up in environments where they had to be hyper-aware. They essentially had to monitor tiny shifts in the mood or tone of a room just to stay safe. And over time, because of that environment, your brain became an absolute expert at reading social signals in mere milliseconds. I mean, signals that average people completely miss. By physically turning to face the door, you're intentionally giving your mind the visual data it's literally craving to feel secure. You're setting yourself up to scan the room for changes in the atmosphere before they even happen. And because of that intense vigilance, your brain is constantly running in the background, asking one simple question: what does this mean next? You're likely wired for what psychologists call predictive processing. That's a cognitive pattern where your mind is just constantly sucking in data and trying to forecast the immediate future. By keeping that entrance clearly in your line of sight, you're actively helping your brain build those patterns. You're preparing for all the possibilities. You are essentially taking a completely unpredictable environment and turning it into a manageable data set, which, thankfully, drastically reduces that internal stress of not knowing who or what might walk through the door next. All of this builds into a highly actionable strategy that's born out of a deep, deep craving for control. If you feel like the world is messy or unpredictable, keeping your space visually organized gives you this profound sense of stability. It works like this. Step 1, you keep the entrance in sight. Step 2, this creates what the research calls a buffer zone information. Basically, you get to be the very first person to know what's happening around you. And step 3, this restores your sense of autonomy. That visual buffer zone takes potential chaos and turns into a situation you finally feel capable of handling.
Moving right along to section 2, the internal processor, freeing your cognitive bandwidth. I want you to think about the invisible math your brain is doing here. When your back is to the door, a massive chunk of your internal processing power is completely drained just listening for sounds behind you. It's eating up your cognitive bandwidth, worrying about the unknown. But the second you face the door, you instantly remove that visual uncertainty. And when that uncertainty vanishes, your brain's threat detection system can finally relax. The amazing result is that you actually free up cognitive bandwidth to focus better and engage so much more deeply with the people sitting right across from you. Now let's explore section 3, the emotional root, guarded empathy and self-reliance. This kind of positioning requires what the research calls strategic observation. People who had to grow up a little too fast often develop an incredibly sharpened emotional awareness. But along with that, they learn that they have to protect themselves. If this is you, you know exactly how much it costs to care or to be emotionally involved without having your guard up. So your brain chooses a physical position of strategic observation. You still want to be part of the room. You deeply desire that connection. But your psyche just needs to know for sure that there is a clear physical path to safety in case the emotional cost of the room suddenly spikes.
And this physical positioning reflects an even deeper truth. It's a learned survival independence. If you were a child who felt like you couldn't really rely on consistent support from the adults around you, you likely developed an early, profound sense of self-reliance. You had to stop expecting others to protect you, so you became your own primary guardian. Facing the door is the literal, physical manifestation of that childhood independence. You're quite literally watching your own back, simply because your brain remembers a time when absolutely no one else was doing it for you. So, when we pull all this together and look at the vigilant mind, this mix of hyper-awareness to social signals, the predictive processing of threats, that intense craving for autonomous control, the guarded empathy, and this deeply learned self-reliance, the absolute most important thing to take away is this. Your need for a clear view, it is not a weakness. It isn't paranoia. It is the absolute hallmark of a highly observant, incredibly resilient mind that successfully adapted to its surroundings really early on. Your internal compass for safety works perfectly.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most important thought. Understanding these patterns is really the very first step towards self-awareness. It lets you see yourself and, honestly, the people around you in a completely new light. But I want to leave you with a question. Your past completely explains your need for safety, and your brain did exactly what it needed to do to protect you. But now that you know you have the power, the autonomy, and the awareness, when will you allow yourself to rest? Something to think about, right? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep looking for those hidden patterns right in front of you.
Subscribe to Brain Logic, like this video to support deep psychological insights, and comment your opinion below. We value your unique perspective.